right, so today we're going to decode something that honestly we all deal with online, but it's kind of hard to put your finger on. We're talking about those invisible cultural rules that basically run our digital lives. You know the feeling, right? You post a comment, you think it's crystal clear, and then, boom, it gets completely misinterpreted. Or maybe you're just scrolling and you see something that makes you go, huh, that just feels off. Yeah, you are definitely not alone. And that gap, between what you meant and how people took it, well, that almost always boils down to one thing: the invisible cultural context we're all swimming in. To make this super clear, let's talk about a story. Let's meet Emily. She's 17, a crazy talented designer, and she puts her whole cultural heritage into her work. We're talking traditional patterns, colors, the whole deal. And she's sharing all this cool stuff online, totally pumped to connect with other creative people from around the world. But the feedback she gets is just all over the map. I mean, some people absolutely love it. Others, they're just confused. And then you've got a few who are actually critical because some of the symbols she's using mean something totally different where they're from. So now Emily's stuck with this huge dilemma, right? Does she water down her art to make it more universal, or does she double down and try to explain the really deep meaning behind every piece? And Emily's problem? That's exactly what we're talking about. It gets right to the heart of it. If we want to understand why that feedback was so confusing, we've got to decode this invisible cultural software that's running in the background for every single one of us. So what even is this cultural software? Well, it's not just about food or holidays, right? It's way deeper. Think of it like the unwritten instruction manual for a society. It covers the huge stuff, like our values about family or freedom, but also the tiny, everyday things, like how we say hello. It's the lens we're all looking through, and most of the time, we don't even know it's there. Okay, so one of the biggest ways this all plays out is in how we communicate. Like, how much do we say outright versus how much is just implied? Is the expectation for you to read the air, pick up on the vibe? Or is everything spelled out for you, like you're reading a manual? This right here, this is ground zero for so many online arguments. Seriously, in what we call high context cultures, think Japan, for example, the meaning is all layered. It's in the shared history, the nonverbal cues, even the emoji you choose. It's about what you don't say. But then you have low context cultures, like Germany or the US, where the message is the message. The words on the screen are what matter. The goal is to be super clear, super direct. You can already see the problem, right? A direct comment from a low-context person could sound incredibly rude to someone from a high-context culture, and an indirect one could just seem totally confusing. Here's a perfect example. Imagine someone from a high-context culture says something like, it's a special day tomorrow. To someone in the know, the message is obvious. Hey, remember that surprise party we planned? Don't you dare forget. But to an outsider, it just sounds like a random fact about the calendar. This is exactly how context builds these entire worlds of meaning that a simple line of text just can't possibly convey. But look, this whole directness thing, it's just one piece of the puzzle. To really get what was happening with Emily's feedback, we have to go deeper. And luckily, there's a really cool framework that helps us break culture down into a few key areas. Okay, first up, is it all about I or is it all about we? This is individualism versus collectivism. In really individualistic cultures, say like the US, your online profile is basically your personal highlight reel, right? It's all about my achievements, my successes. But in more collectivist cultures like South Korea, you're going to see a lot more emphasis on group success, on the team, on community, and the communication is all about keeping that group harmony. Next, we've got something called power distance. This is basically about how cool a culture is with inequality. So in a high power distance culture, let's say Mexico, you'd probably write a pretty formal email to your boss, very respectful. But in a low power distance culture, like Denmark, that same email might be super casual. First names, maybe even a smiley face. It's all about how much you're expected to defer to authority or not. Then there's uncertainty avoidance, which is just a fancy way of asking, how comfortable are you with the unknown? A culture with high uncertainty avoidance, like Greece, probably wants a super detailed plan. They want all the rules laid out before they start anything. But a culture with low avoidance, maybe like Singapore, is way more comfortable just diving in and figuring it out on the fly. You see, one person's chaos is another person's flexibility. And finally, masculinity versus femininity. And, super important, this has nothing to do with gender. It's about a society's values. So So-called masculine cultures, like Germany, tend to really value things like being assertive and getting results. Communication is going to be pretty direct, goal-oriented. On the flip side, feminine cultures, like Sweden, tend to prioritize cooperation and quality of life. There, communication is probably going to be more about building consensus. Okay, wow, that's a lot of theory. So what now? What do we actually do with all this? How do we use it to not mess things up online? Well, let's build our toolkit. First off, why even bother with all this? Sounds complicated, right? Because the payoff is huge. Seriously. When you engage with different cultures, it just explodes your creativity. It pushes you to grow as a person, and it opens doors to opportunities you never even knew existed. But hey, let's be real for a second. It's not always a walk in the park. You're going to hit communication walls. You have to confront your own hidden biases. And honestly, just adapting your style can be exhausting. But just knowing that, acknowledging that these hurdles are real, that's the first step to getting over them. So here it is, your 5-step plan. Step 1, be curious, like genuinely want to learn about other people. Step 2, practice active listening. That means listening to understand, not just waiting for your turn to talk. Step 3, respect differences. You don't have to agree, but you have to acknowledge they're valid. Step 4, and this one's a biggie, be flexible. Be ready to change your approach. And finally, step 5, use these platforms ethically. Try to be a positive force in whatever online space you're in. Okay, let's circle all the way back to Emily. Remember her? We left her kind of stuck with this big problem. But now she's got this awesome new toolkit. She can actually understand what's going on. So now that she knows all this stuff about high and low context, about different cultural values, how does she handle that confusing feedback now? What's her next move? Well, now she has a real game plan. Instead of just getting defensive or confused, she can be proactive. She can start by telling people the story behind her work, educating her community. She can open up a real dialogue and turn all that confusion into a genuine conversation. She could even decide to tweak her designs a little, finding that sweet spot between her unique vision and a global audience. Suddenly, it's not a problem anymore, is it? It's an amazing opportunity. And really, Emily's story is, well, it's all of our stories, just on a smaller scale. It points to this massive question we're all wrestling with. In this crazy digital world, the challenge isn't just getting connected anymore. It's connecting with real understanding, with real respect. So the question for all of us is, how do we share who we truly are while also building one single connected world where everyone feels like they actually belong?